Hey, is that Sarah Boyle? Hey,
Hello,
are you Sarah Boyle?
I am.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you, Marshall.
Nice to meet you.
Glad you could make it. So you live over on the north side, like kind of Fleshman Creek? Yeah,
Yep.
nice.
Yeah. So I deal with the train.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm over by like Town and Country. Yeah, in Town and
Oh,
Country.
nice.
All right. Well, yeah, I didn't hear from anybody that they couldn't make it, so just give people a couple minutes.
Sounds good. I'm hiding out at work and I wanted to make sure it worked. So
Hey, Robin.
Good morning.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, good. Audio works. Excellent.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello, Maureen is here as
Hi.
well.
Oh, hey, Maureen.
I wonder if there's any documents. I'm going to look on my computer and see if there. Yeah, I'll get the agenda and gotcha. There is an agenda.
Such a nice day today. It's pretty.
Chilly out there.
It's chilly. It's the breeze is a little brisk. Yeah, it kind of gets your attention.
All right. Well, we got everybody but Laurel. So we could get going here. We've got our new member, Sarah Boyle.
Oh,
Sarah, do you want to show yourself and just introduce introduce yourself. Say a little bit about why you wanted to be on the tree board and what some of your experience with trees or boards or whatever.
sure. So hi, I'm Sarah Boyle. I have a sort of long history with trees and plants. I ran the Native Landscapes Nursery for about 6 years when it was down off of 89 and helped people select trees and plants for their yards. During that time got my certified plant professional and my master gardener. And I've always had a love of plants and trees and have been cultivating so lots of trees and things on our property where we live on the other side of the tracks in town. So
Great. Well, thanks so much. It's great to have you.
thanks. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So we got kind of a short agenda today, but it's a little bit deceiving. So there are a couple things that came up after I sent out the agenda that I'd like us to have during just want to save some room for public comment. So I think we should aim to wrap up before 11:40, if that's possible, with our budget letter, and then we've got Erica and Robin and Susan from PCEC just going to give a quick update on the fundraiser. And then maybe you've heard more about the trees marked for removal around town. And some people are concerned, especially about the ones along the Myers River Trail. So Sarah Stans is going to give us a little bit of an update on that. And I think that's something we might want to consider at our next meeting. So did people have I guess first of all, Lisa, do we have any minutes?
Marshall, I apologize. We don't have minutes, and I promise, I think I promised last month that we'd get them, but I promise you this time I'll get them all updated and get them to you next time. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thanks. So we can skip minutes this month. So really the only item on the agenda, I think this is a important thing for the year for us, is this our statement of our priorities and our budget recommendations. So I warned Sarah Boyle when I called her to welcome her to the board before that we're kind of stuck a little bit on this kind of stodgy budgeting stuff for the time being for this month. So did people have a chance to read this draft letter? And any thoughts on that?
I think it's good. It lays everything out clearly as to what our priorities are, and I like it.
Do people feel like it kind of captured what we talked about at last meeting?
Yeah,
I wasn't at the last meeting, but I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, but I feel like it captured what we've been discussing up to this point. Yes.
Okay. I think we don't need to vote on this month unless we really want to. I think if we voted on it next month, that would be fine. But do we want more time on this? Do we want to, what do people want to do?
I think it's really good. I don't think we need to review it again, in my opinion. And then when do you need to submit it? Is it just by the end of the year? Or is it, are you submitting it to a meeting or just submitting it to the city manager? Or?
We would just be emailing it to the commission and the city manager. Okay. And I think in some ways, the sooner the better. There have been these meetings that have been unclear whether they're directly tied to the budgeting, but it's about like prioritizing growth policy stuff for the coming year. I think unless people want to take a closer look at it or debate it more, I think it might be good to get it in sooner rather than later.
I agree.
I do too.
Yeah, I agree. This looks fine to me. As long as Laurel's not here, but get a feedback from Laurel.
Right. Okay.
I mean, maybe she'll come in a little bit, but she was.
I'm going to text her.
No, looks good.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, maybe we could. Yeah, depending on what we hear from Laurel, I like the idea of getting her input, because she had some things to say at the last meeting about this. But if we don't hear from her, maybe we move on to our public comment, and then we could circle back to it a little later in the meeting and vote on it. Or I think it'd be fine to wait till next month with her input too. And so we were going to, I guess, Sarah, did you, with your fresh eye on things, does any of this sound crazy in terms of not to put you on the spot, but I'm curious what your
No,
thoughts.
I actually had a chance to read it, and I was encouraged by what I saw in it. And it definitely fit with the things that I thought of as priorities coming into this. So,
Okay. Cool. Well, maybe let's put that one on the side burner for a bit. And PCC folks, do you want to give us a update on the fundraiser?
Yeah, thanks, Marshall, for accommodating us early in the agenda. I appreciate it. I'm Erica. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Erica Lighthizer. I serve as the Deputy Director here at Park County Environmental Council. And I'm just here today. Thank you all for your service to the tree board and our Livingston's community trees. And I would just like to provide a quick update on the fundraiser. As some of you know, in the spring of this year, we had the help of some passionate community members, including Susan, who's also on this call. And we created the tree fund. It's a separate fund within PCC's budget that's relegated specifically to purchase, plant, and maintain community trees. The goal of this work is to support the city in building a more robust and resilient community forest and to mitigate the impacts of climate change, invasive species, create wildlife habitat, and enhance the beauty of our town. So hopefully you've seen some of the boxes we have around town or the posters that are sharing information about it. Currently the fund is at about $7,500, $8,000, and we hope to double that by next spring to be able to purchase somewhere between 25 and 50 trees. And we're still working through the details, but I think how we were thinking about it is to divide the trees up into 1 to 2 community projects, like maybe the HRDC housing up on the North Hill, or the old hospital on the south side, or areas that do not have a lot of trees, and then also do an adopt a tree program so that community members that have boulevard space could sign up, and they would agree to water and maintain the tree, and they would get a free tree for their boulevard. So we're still working out some of those details. Robin and I met with Shannon earlier this month and to tell him a little about the program and see how we could coordinate efforts with the city. We were initially thinking it would be great to have the city's support in planting the trees. And it sounds like that may be possible if we could time it with Arbor Day, or but it's just kind of depends on, they have such a busy spring and they have a contractor that's doing a lot of the planting work that's a part of that DNRC grant that they received for next year. So it was good to meet with Shannon, kind of understand their constraints, but yeah, would like to continue to be able to work with the city and see how we can best coordinate efforts. So right now, to donate to the tree fund, we have a link on our website where people can donate directly to that fund. We hope to upgrade that page on our website in the next couple of weeks with an application to sign up and the care agreement for community trees. And we're also looking at right now securing a sort of volunteer force for next spring, potentially through AmeriCorps' NCCC program. They helped out the city last summer, and PCC and Farm to School hosted, I think it was 7 community volunteers for a month. And so we're looking into that program again and going to apply for those volunteers again next year. So that could be a volunteer force for planting the trees. So we come to you all today with, sort of a request for your guidance and any feedback you have on our overall approach. What tree species you'd suggest we might plant, boulevard locations in town that you think could use trees, help getting the word out. And, you know, and just your guidance on how to best work with you all and the city to just make this program work for everyone. So yeah, I thought we'd share that today. Did I miss anything, Robin or Susan, that you'd like to share with everyone?
Thank you. Covered all the bases. Thanks, Erica.
Great. Well, hey, thanks so much for that.
Can
Yeah,
I
I
ask a
know.
quick
Sorry.
question?
Sure.
Erica, with the, thank you so much. This is exactly what I think we could use. This is great. Do you think that you'll be coordinating then, like with the purchase of the trees with the city or through volunteers? How do you think the purchase of the trees will work?
Thank you for bringing that up because I meant to mention that. Yeah, we were thinking that PCEC would go ahead and purchase the trees. So we have been looking at some different options for different nurseries and pricing and that kind of thing. If it made sense for us to be able to purchase in bulk with the city at a reduced rate, or we're totally open to that. I think it's just a matter of where can we get the best bang for our buck for our community and make these funds go as far as possible.
Well, that's great. I love it. It sounds like a great program. Can you give me an idea of some places where the boxes are located in case I want to direct people to making donations? Do you have a list or?
That's a Robin or a Susan question.
Gourmet Cellar, Dan Bailey's, Murray Hotel, Pickle Barrel, Chamber, Fireflies, Insty Prints, Sweetwater Fly Shop, Wood Rose. I think there may be a couple out there that I'm missing, but I think that's the bulk of them.
So those boxes have cash donations, and then they also have a QR code that you could just put your phone up to, and which would take you directly to the donation page on our website.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll direct people to those locations.
that might be easier than the people might feel that's more secure than the little boxes with cash.
Great.
Yeah,
Oh,
here's
you're
the
there. Very nice.
Thank you. It's a great program.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Thanks to Susan for
Susan really,
getting all this designed and,
yeah,
you know,
You guys too.
donating her time and money for all the printing.
yeah, it's been amazing.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I know it's been kind of a chore, like figuring out like just who's doing what and how to balance this between an organization and things that are in flux with like what people think the role of a board is in Livingston. So yeah, thank you so much for just sticking through it with that. So I guess the main question I have is like, what, if you have a plan to present this to the commission, or I guess what sort of our most direct role would be in the coming months to sort of express our support. So that I guess my impression was that the kind of the cleanest way to make this like a city sanctioned program or whatever would be to get it on the commission agenda at some point. And then for the tree board to comment on it at that point, just saying that we support the program. And yeah.
Okay, yeah, that I was really hoping to get that guidance too, as to what should be our next steps. How can we best make this clear and transparent what we're doing? So, I mean, would it make sense for us to share our proposal with the board, and then we can request to be on a future commission meeting agenda and invite you all to attend that? Is that kind of, or like a letter, or, how can we?
Yeah, I think
So-
it's something like that, and maybe we could just figure that out this next month
Yeah.
over,
Okay.
email to the commission, city manager, whatever. Just figure out. I mean, maybe that doesn't need to happen, and you guys are just working with Shannon. I'm still just confused about the process, and
Very. Um, thank you, Marshall, for your diplomacy. I think,
okay.
I think if we, a letter of support, maybe we could, if you want to help us put that together for the next month, Marshall.
Yeah.
And then, and then we'll have our letter of support that to present, to give to PCEC. And then if PCEC could let us know when they get on the agenda for the city, and then we can be there.
Oh, great.
Would that be, does that sound like a plan, like early, if we want planting to start? Arbor Day is usually at the end of April. That's when that's when the actual date is, and that's when we try to celebrate. So last week of April or first week of May. So if we can, because sometimes it takes a while to get on the agenda for the city commission. So if we can get that letter of support to you by the end of December, and then maybe even in January or whenever you guys are ready, we could, when you submit that, then we would love to be there to support your presentation that you give to the city.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think, basically, drafting the letter to have ready, and then just checking in with the city to make sure we're on the right track with, but yeah, in general, it makes sense to me that it would go in some form to the commission in January or February or whatever. Tree board support would be expressed, and then we'd be set up to, do the planting in the spring, with support from city staff for the planting, hopefully. Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
Thanks for laying that out, Lisa.
So I have a quick question as far as procurement, purchasing the trees. Is that something does the city have a nursery license that they'll be purchasing those trees with, or are you just planning to go to local nurseries to try and get those trees?
As far as I know, the city doesn't have a license. The trees that they do purchase, as I understand it, they get them a small discount from, I don't know what size discount. They buy them from Cashman's and or Blake's.
Okay.
And we're going to, I was over at Cashman's on Monday talking to them about it. But yes, one of the local nurseries, we're hoping to be able to partner with one of the local nurseries, because we would like to purchase local, even though the trees probably aren't grown locally. There's one up in the Shields Valley. There's a couple here in town, and where we're still deciding on the size of the tree and then we're going to kind of try and narrow it down. So don't offer a property owner a choice of 20 different varieties, probably about
Absolutely.
5 different varieties. Depending on whether they have a power line over their boulevard or not. And, I was even thinking one of the other projects that they were discussing was, and I know Shannon's, it's kind of one of his preferences is some trees around they call it McNair skate park, skate park down there next to the Civic Center.
Yep.
Maybe some of those could even be evergreens. Perhaps they don't want those in the boulevard, but that's not a boulevard project. So, but we're still deciding on that. We'll definitely have that nailed down, before we go to the commission, so we can spell it all out to the city commission. It's like, here's the, Susan was even trying to get boulevard property owners on board starting fairly soon, express interest so we can start to develop a list in addition to a couple of the projects like, the HRDC housing on the hill, McNair Skate Park, perhaps the hospital, things like that, or the old hospital. So we're still looking for sources of trees.
You know, I have a question. So to Tom's point, we feel like we would like to get people enlisted, adoptive parents for the trees, and then start talking to probably, at least at this point, we're thinking of starting with HRDC and the North Main Street housing that they have there that's pretty bare, and then possibly the skate park, and then we have some other alternatives if, you know, that doesn't seem to work out. So this is almost more of a diplomacy question. Do we need to get this in front of the city council just as a courtesy, really? You know, we obviously want their support. Do we need to do that before we begin talking to people, you know, or is that something that can happen along the way? And if it's before, we'd like to, you know, especially like HRDC, because we think it might take a little while to figure that all out. You know, how can we, I guess, just move things forward so that we can start talking to people if we should talk to the city council first?
I don't think we should slow you down at all. I think you have a good thing going. So I would just keep talking with people, and yeah, I think it would make sense when you bring the proposal to the commission or however that takes shape, that you sort of already say that you have, you know, you've identified people who are interested in having these trees.
All right, that's perfect, because that just plays back in my mind, because I don't always know exactly how these things work here in Livingston. So that's perfect. Then we'll just keep moving forward, and then we'll include that in our report. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, you guys are welcome to stick around. So I guess the sort of action there then is I'll start drafting the letter, and then I'll also contact, I guess it would be Cardos, just check in about that. Yeah, and then put it as an agenda item on our for our next meeting, if that makes sense. Or yeah, and we'll just keep you in the loop with however that takes shape.
I think if you contact Cardos, I believe Erica and Robin met with, was it you two that met with Shannon? And he was, you know, I don't want to speak for them. I think he was pretty enthusiastic about it. So, you know, you can mention that. It's not a cold call on Cardos, is that they've already been meeting with him, and he's kind of like giving him a, you know, thumbs up on the on the idea. And then I think he's the one that mentioned the McNair Skate Park.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also wondering if, because we have brought Shannon into the loop, if Shannon should be the one that introduces it to Cardos, just more as a courtesy. More like Susan said, a diplomacy question here. Should that, you know, or maybe I ask Shannon how he wants us to handle that. I have Shannon on my to-do list to make some emails and phone calls to about other questions, so I could ask him that.
Yeah, I think that's fine, and you could just let me know. I mean,
I'll do that.
Basically, we're only supposed to communicate with city staff now through Cardos, so it's yeah, it would make sense to me to get Shannon in the loop there, but it's been prohibited. So yeah, I guess the question for him would just be if he has thoughts on the best way for the tree board to express our support.
Okay, I can do that.
All right, cool. So 12:30, I think Sarah was going to tune in at like 11:50, but that could be a longer discussion, or 12:50. So I might just text her and let her know that we're at a spot where she could join.
Did Lisa get a hold of Laurel?
I texted her. She's at a vaccination clinic.
Uh,
She said I'm not sure what time it wrapped up, but she said she would try to get here, but she might not get here before the end of the meeting.
She's a busy lady.
Yeah. Did he say Sarah?
Sarah Stans is gonna.
Oh, Sarah Stans. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, so basically I can give kind of a prequel to this. So you might remember that Dan Bush and Marta came to our meeting like a couple months ago and said that the city was getting this grant for removing hazard trees.
Yeah.
And then Dan mentioned that again, I think last month, just that they were moving ahead with that. So you may have seen that there are trees around town that have a yellow X on them, like they mark the ones around the gazebo with that, I guess because they're like too close or something. So we don't really receive information from the city about what they're doing with this, but I guess, yeah, those yellow X's have been noticed by people on the Myers Trail, the Myers River Trail. And some community members contacted Shannon or Michael Cardos and asked what was going on with that. And so I guess there are a bunch of big cottonwoods along the Myers River Trail that they're planning to take down. And especially there along the trail, there are people who are like,
hello.
What's that?
Dr. Desnick is here now.
Oh, okay.
Very unexpected booster clinic.
I'm gonna move that one down a little.
All right, cool. Well, maybe we can, I can finish with that real quick and then we can go back to the budget letter. But so yeah, just to save a little bit of time with what Sarah might say, there are people who are just sort of like, why are we going to cut down these cottonwoods along Myers River Trail? And I guess, yeah, Sarah, they discussed it a little bit at Parks and Trails Committee meeting, and Sarah has some thoughts on how the tree board might be involved. So I'll wait for her to say that. But Laurel, so we talked a little bit about our annual priorities letter and the budget, and we wanted to wait to get your take before we either vote on that this month or table it for a month to hash out any of the details or whatever.
I think again, I think that the ask for is, what's important is that we just have an extremely aged population of trees. And I would just focus there. But otherwise, I thought this looked great. And I think it's also important that there's no sense in planting trees unless we have a maintenance plan in place. And so I don't know if that belongs here, but that is the truth. They die unless they're cared for 3 to 5 years. And so I think it's really all one conversation, but I think it needs to be spelled out.
Cool. So are you looking at like the priority number 1, tree planting?
Yep.
So there's a part near the bottom of that section that says, we've observed a significant level of mortality likely due to lack of watering by property owners. With any major new public tree planting, we recommend funding a part-time seasonal watering position and or educational materials for property owners to protect the significant investment in new trees.
I'd probably just be a little stronger. A key part of replanting our boulevards is having in place a maintenance program. Because of mortality, all that you already have here. And actually, for the first time, we planted 3 new ones, and they're all they now need tall fences around them for deer in town, which is brand new. We've never had that before. I don't even know if they're gonna survive. But the bark is completely stripped and it's just, that's a big deal because now tree planting has become like a building project.
Yeah, that's one thing we should maybe mention to PCEC too. I'm not sure that, or Tom, you could take that back to the group. Just
Yeah, we discussed that
okay, cool.
because they were looking at how many trees they could afford. And I told them, you got to have to buy stakes and fencing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and we've in our yard with the deers, we've used those plastic things that go right around the trunk.
Yeah, you need those too.
They seem really effective, but
Corrugated.
I guess including that cost in would be maybe important to.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely.
It
protects the
definitely
crop.
works for
Yeah.
the first, when they're really young, so.
All right. Laurel, anything else on the other parts? Like, I know you've been really into the tree planting for city entrances and along Park Street, which is kind of a smaller section here at the end. I don't know how you.
Yeah, and it's
what you
really
think about
East Park, but until we change the city rules, I stopped my conversation with the state. I mean, they were pretty excited about it, and he was going to come and do a walkthrough, and we were going to do the overlay maps and what fits where, and invite the planning and invite the zoning, and I basically it's dead. And because those are outside people, I mean, we could just blow that off, which I'm happy to do, but I need permission from this group to do that. And I'm very happy to just forge ahead. Because I think it's key. I mean, actually that buck got killed yesterday out there because people drive too fast. That family of deer that have lived by the coffee shop for years and years. And so starting basically at the bridge, and then I think that the east 2/3 of Park Street are really much more concerning than the west. And then, if you really want to think about it, it's the frontage road. Like there's a lot. I think it should be a long-term plan. And I think it's fine what you, I mean, it's a safety issue. It's a visual, yeah, I guess it doesn't say safety here. I would add that because they now are saying that the more planting you have, the slower people go. Car wrecks, especially bike pedestrian, car bike. It just slows everybody because they think they're in a residential area. It's a weird mindset. If there's no trees, it's a free for all. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I like the idea of adding that. Yeah, just about traffic speed in there. So I guess in general, the way we're phrasing it in terms of, relating to like budgeting or whatever, do you think that's okay? Where I'm saying that this is, we recognize this priority is more complex to implement and maybe difficult to incorporate as a budget item. In many locations, it would make sense to integrate trees with improvements to sidewalks, curbs, and landscaping. Or maybe it's, it's essentially a zoning issue in some ways. So,
What's the zoning issue?
the trees along the city entrances. So I've got that.
No, I don't think so. It's the property owners. And state law, it's a state highway. I don't think zoning is the obstacle there at all. It's because it's a state highway, we have to meet state highway regs. And then because there's leased, owned, and government property mixed up in there, you have to know which spaces are under which rules, who owns it, who maintains, so that's the holdup. It's not zoning.
But are you talking about just city limits?
City limits.
Just city limits, okay, yeah.
But the state highway runs right through the middle of the city.
Right.
Yeah.
Something maybe to consider is, we have a new, the city county has a new planning board or a new subset of a planning board that has members from both the county and the city for the donut area or whatever we call that around the city, and maybe including something that somehow we can work with the city county planning
Yeah,
for that area just outside of the city,
So, yeah.
or
that's-
maybe put it on their radar for that city county subcommittee. Put it on their radar about the importance of
Mhm.
trees.
We should tread lightly because that is a city proposal that the city has something to say in that donut, and the county has not yet agreed to that.
Oh, okay, thank you for clarifying that.
They're waiting to see what the city has in mind because it's actually a stretch and the county may generously go with it, but they don't need to,
Okay,
is their interpretation.
yeah.
so maybe consider it.
So,
in
but keep
future.
it definitely on
Yeah.
the radar, yeah. The,
I have a thought I don't want to lose. So I guess I think there's going to be a lot of focus with budgeting and priorities about like what's in the growth policy, because there's so much in the growth policy that you know, just like churning through that is like a huge task in itself. So I think there's going to be that's why I've tried to sort of like cite the growth policy in a lot of these other priorities. And I'm just noticing that the one about city entrances and along Park Street is the way it's stated in the growth policy is kind of in terms of zoning. It's basically saying like, you know, to get trees along the entrances, it's overlay zoning. But so maybe in our letter, do we want to say something like, you know, we think there are other opportunities for like establishing trees along park or along city entrances, like without zoning. So we would, you know, encourage you to like explore those options or something like that.
yeah, I think I'd leave zoning out of it. I believe they said that, but that's not what I have discovered. So it's certainly a piece of it, but it's not the main. The zoning board is going to be more than happy to recommend trees, but there's just too many other laws and issues that belong before it gets to zoning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think how that happened was during our growth policy comments, we just said encourage trees at city entrances. And then when I guess it would have been like Matthew, who was incorporating public comment, he rephrased it in terms of zoning.
Right.
As a zoning.
I guess to just step back a little bit, I think to me, this is on main thoroughfares. I wouldn't necessarily limit it just to Park Street because we can, but we have some pretty big busy roads now. I also wouldn't limit it to tourism because what we really have is residential areas that now exceed the traditional boundaries of the city. They're part of the city, but nobody ever used to live on the North Hill. Nobody ever used to live out, you know, Northern Lights. Green Acres and 5 Acre Tracts have both expanded. So it's a lot. I think that and actually this has nothing to, this is just kind of a shift in my thinking and talking to some other people. We have really put more emphasis in this area on new people and growth and tourism than we have on the core community. And I think our job is to represent the core community. The tourists are going to benefit from whatever we do. But I think it's for us to live in a good place, for us to live in a safe place, to us to live in a pretty place, and a healthy place. It's really about the community more than it is tourism to me.
All right. Yeah, I like that. So maybe rephrasing, I think it sounds like this last section could use a little work. So maybe we hold off on this and vote on it next month. And Laurel, maybe I could like send you this in a doc form and you could edit the last section or something.
Sure, glad to. I mean, I'm going to keep it pretty general, but I think you have it, just a little bit of context. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't want to cut out mentioning the growth policy
Yeah.
part about zoning, but maybe, yeah, so framing it not as much in terms of tourism, and then yeah, mentioning traffic speed, and then yeah, not limiting it to Park Street. Yeah, I like all that.
Yeah. I think overlay zoning, so it's not retroactive. That's the
Sorry,
thing.
what was that?
Zoning, changing to zoning and overlay, as far as I know, is not retroactive, so it just means
Yeah.
anything new that comes in. And most of that property is either owned by the railroad or there's a lot of business leases along in there, so you have to talk to the leasee, you have to talk to the railroad, and you have to talk to the DOT. So that's where the issues are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to think that that issue is totally dead because of this whatever board policy. I think that I think we have some options for pushing that ahead. I think we could, like, later this year or whatever, in the coming months, we could submit a recommendation letter that, like, you know, this is a priority, or we could sort of take this little statement of priority and kind of tease that out a little more into a letter all in itself, that we would be like asking the commission to, you know, assign like I don't know what the options would be, like asking them for a staff report or something on like what they think the options are for encouraging trees along busy streets, including Park Street, or something like that.
Well, and I think honestly, we need to challenge that rules about city boards. I think it's, which we don't have to, but somebody does. It needs to be challenged. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I guess as long as we're waiting on Sarah, we could I'll treat this as a little bit of board comment here. So I couldn't make the commission meeting on Tuesday. Did anybody watch that part about the board communication?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't watched the video. So I was told that there was a lengthy discussion by the commission about it, and that it's sort of that there'll be an ongoing discussion about it, and that, yeah, I think there's an effort underway to sort of continue to talk about yeah, the role of the boards, and you know, so, and I think if we wanted to, we could, like, people could watch the recording of the meeting, and then at our next meeting or whatever, we could talk about submitting a letter to the commission if we wanted to, expressing our viewpoint on that.
Yeah.
And I think we have some
When
good.
does the new board take ownership?
First meeting in January.
Good.
All right, looks like we're getting Sarah here to talk about the Myers River trees.
Sarah Stans is
Yeah.
coming on now, right?
Yes.
Hey, Sarah Stans, are you there?
Oh yeah, are you waiting for me to talk?
Yeah,
Sorry,
go for it.
I just got let in and there was silence. I didn't want to be rude and interrupt. I'm outside walking our trails and the dog, so I don't want to make you sick with my video. But I thought I'd just quickly let the tree board know. Parks and Trails Committee had a meeting last night to discuss what was originally a just citizen request of some of the trees that were marked for removal down at Myers River Trail. And so we reached out to you and just trying to get some more information. And then according to the new policy draft, reached out to Michael Cardos and to try to just get some more information around if they are in fact due for removal, or what the plan was, or why those trees in particular. And the response was, it's a safety protocol and it's up to the Parks Department to make the decisions and timeline on those trees. The Montana Freshwater Partners is doing a lot of work with landowners as well as citizens to try to educate that those trees are in fact really crucial to riparian corridors, and leaving those trees in water systems and even moving cut down trees back into the Yellowstone River for a host of reasons that's outside of my wheelhouse and expertise. And so I encouraged Wendy to reach out to Shannon and Dan to get more answers, because she was the professional, and it was also the same kind of response that the dangerous trees needed to be removed in high traffic trail areas, and just kind of pleaded the case around the importance of those trees, dead, half dead, alive, and that they are more of an asset than they are a liability, and to please leave them intact. And it was just, it's a safety concern, and just kind of not having a lot of information and lack of transparency on how trees are selected and who gets to choose the trees and what the decisions are made around trees, especially when a big, large grant comes into the city, that maybe there's an opportunity for a greater discussion with a wider forum, city, county, nonprofits, partners. I don't know, with some of the work that PCEC is doing to fundraise, and so maybe there's just where we can open it up a little bit. And so I just wanted to let the tree board know that we kind of want to talk to you, because it's more your jurisdiction than Parks and Trails, but how can we work together and maybe use it as an opportunity to address some other things around trees, since there's a lot of activity. So that's my comment, and I'd look forward to any thoughts or opinion or feedback.
Thanks,
Like
Sarah.
how we move forward maybe.
Yeah, so I told Sarah this earlier, but I guess offhand, my concerns are that, like, how are these trees being selected? Why are the Myers River trees a priority? Could there be a sign at the trailhead that says this is a natural area where there's a risk of falling trees? I mean, the tree management plan is 7 years old at this point. It specifically mentions that it has a timeline of 5 years. Those are the things that go through my head when I think about the city going into Myers River Trail and cutting down a bunch of cottonwoods. So
That's a good point. I'd like to find out like what the standards they're using, because you would think it's a different standard between taking down boulevard trees in the middle of the city versus taking down trees along a trail close to the river. Maybe there are different standards that they should be looking at.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
do we even have an arborist making these decisions now? Is it Dan walking around looking at?
In our September meeting, Dan came with another woman who works for the city. I don't remember her name, but they drove around and decided which trees came down. I don't think either of them has much expertise in the area. The ones next to the gazebo, I don't know. To me, it's ridiculous to take those down. They're perfectly healthy trees.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a whole set of what would you call it, professional credentials about hazard tree assessment. I wonder why we're not hiring somebody who has those credentials to do this. So yeah, I think it might be worth, like, do people want to consider this for our next meeting, like sending a letter? And I think what we would maybe be asking for is for the commission to ask the city manager for a staff report on how these decisions are being made and whether they would consider sort of slowing down on some of the tree removal in light of the fact that we don't have a certified city arborist and a current tree management plan for the city.
So
Definitely.
I wonder if some of that PCEC, well, for one, I would start by calling Dan, because he's been a friend, he's been a good guy. He got handed a pretty rough job with both Andy leaving and Eric, and he's not an arborist, and I'm sure he's well aware of that. That doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's doing. So, you know, that seems to me the place to start. And then maybe that PCEC money goes to a contract arborist. And when they have a tree that they want to bring down, we just build it in that you check with an arborist to see if there's a way, if, you know, if there's like minimal work that could be done or if the tree really needs to go. I think we just have to tread lightly to not alienate our workers that are trying hard. And I don't know, I agree with you. What are the criteria? I know they exist. I've never looked at them, but there's an awful lot of crummy trees around town, and they can't take a chance of a tree limb falling on someone's head. I don't think a sign is gonna help them, but I don't know. We need to know the rules. And of course, the city attorney could be helpful, but that's not good.
Let's ask the city attorney.
But I would start with Dan and say, gosh, we're getting a lot of pushback on those cottonwoods. Can you tell us what's going on? And just see what you get. He may have a very well thought out reason. I don't know.
All right, well, I don't think we're supposed to communicate with Dan. I think that if we contacted Cardos about this, we would get the same response that.
That's garbage. You say we're the tree board, we're getting a lot of comments. Can you tell us what's going on? I mean, Cardos already gave you his answer. I don't know. That's tough.
Yeah,
Maybe you call to the guy in Billings, the urban forest guy, and ask him how those decisions get made in other communities or something. Nobody has an arborist. I mean, we can't be alone in that.
I think most cities of size have a certified arborist who has, or they contract out hazard tree assessment.
I'm guessing.
Right,
that's-
as part of the city
Yeah.
budget is to at least
Yeah.
have some contract service with an arborist.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's a way to do this without pointing fingers at Dan or to come across. I mean, I think our job is to let the commission know that, you know, we're hearing from people that these trees are being taken down and that there's no policy framework that provides transparency or criteria for how trees are selected. It's just, we don't even know. It's
Right.
I think that's all we're saying, that we have concerns with trees being taken out without a policy framework, and they're being selected. We have reason to believe that they're being selected by people who do not have
I wouldn't say that.
yeah.
Just that we're getting questions about how trees are selected, but that same paperwork says we can't go to the commission. We have to go through Cardos. That didn't work.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think this is, when I'm thinking about this now, I think it's worth considering a letter to the commission about it.
Now, those trees, you know, they could be gone by now, for all we know. I mean,
Yeah, so nobody knows the timeline yet. I think that would be a question to make sure we're not wasting time talking specifically about the Myers Trail trees, but I think it's a bigger issue. I mean, we had people coming to our meetings with the ash replacement grant last year, and I see it as kind of part of the same issue. It's basically that you know, we have no tree management plan, and there's no transparency in how trees are being selected for removal.
so that's, yeah, it
Hey,
seems like an
sorry.
important letter to the commission and today.
Sorry, what?
I think it's immediate. I think they're continuing to take some trees down. So I think there's sort of no time to waste. It could be a paragraph and it goes straight to the commission.
And again, I think it's a good idea. You've mentioned a couple of times, asking for those staff reports, and maybe that's kind of, letting them know that we are looking for information. We're looking for concrete, specific information about how staff, asking for staff reports, because if we have to go through the city manager, let's ask the city manager for the staff, how the staff comes to their decisions on, for example, this idea. The more we ask for staff reports, maybe interesting, that encourages accountability.
All right. Well, I don't know how we would sort of like come up with a letter and vote on it in the next 1 minute before 1.
I wonder if we could do it by email. Oh, but it's not a board. I mean, can we take a vote that we're going to produce a letter before the next commission meeting? And then we're allowed to talk about it in between our meetings? Is that
Yeah.
We can send an email, can't we? And ask for input. If you did a rough draft, I think you could ask for input, and we could still submit it before the next meeting, at the next commission meeting.
We have 2 weeks.
Well, okay, so here's another way it could work. I could email just to ask when the trees are planning to be removed. And if it's like February, then we could just talk about it next month.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If it's like, oh yeah, we're taking those out in 3 weeks, then I could email you and we could hold like a special meeting,
Yes, and then
20
we could,
minutes or whatever.
and then we could send our own letter of request or recommendation.
Okay. Cool. I'll do that right after the meeting. I'll email
Okay.
about when the trees are being removed.
Now we tell them that we're hearing concerns
Yeah.
and we would like to have the chance to get more information before any more further action is taken.
Yeah. Sarah, how does all this sound to you from the Parks and Trails perspective?
Yeah, however we can support you. It's good to know that this is more of a tree jurisdiction and it has interest to your group. I think my only comment is that, making sure that this can be the wider discussion, right? So while Myers Riverview is a case study, as well as the emerald ash borer removal, how do we set ourselves up so we're making decisions, more transparent, thoughtful decisions for tree care and tree removal in general? And it's really interesting to hear some of the nonprofits just talk about their work and the importance of deadfall within those areas. So not just how they're a liability or not, but how they're really enhancing our local habitats and for other species. So I think, and yeah, if there's an opportunity for us to provide more fiscally responsible solutions for the city, so how can we enhance and add value rather than create more quote unquote problems or issues? Yeah, that's it. But I appreciate you talking about it, and thanks.
So, we don't have an existing document that identifies trees, keep, get rid of, replant, whatever. And we also don't have a professional arborist. And so those 2 things are expensive and pretty necessary for a town this size. And so, where those get mentioned, I don't know, but those are the 2 most obvious solutions to these issues. Last year, cutting down all those trees, this issue, any replanting plan, I think that's what we're lacking right now. And it just keeps coming back and raising more issues. So.
All right. Well, thanks. So yeah, it sounds like we'll put it on the docket for next month unless we find out the trees are being removed before then, in which case I'll get in touch about setting up a special meeting.
That sounds great. Thank you.
All right, and then on our budget letter, we'll hold that to vote on next month, and then Laurel, I'll send you the draft if you want to sketch some things in the gateway section.
Great.
Or yeah, we can work on that before the next meeting. All right, thanks everyone. Yeah, Sarah, Boyle, if you have questions about what the heck we talked about today, or yeah, anything you want to like sort of yeah, talk about before the next meeting, just to get up to speed, feel free to like email or call me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we've got our
Oh,
board
are we-
comment.
We're still working. Okay. I'll make a comment whenever it's time for a person comment.
Yeah,
that-
go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
That was good.
It just came to my mind in the last couple of days or the last couple of weeks. I know that none of our trees in town were grown organically. There was a program in place, or somehow they were all planted 100 years ago, like the majority of the ash trees. And so I'm going to look into the history of how it was funded way back when our boulevard trees, when all of these trees, 5,000 trees were planted 100 years ago. How did that happen, and how did we budget for it, and how can we use that to use for our benefit in the future to try to encourage it, that the city has it in our standard budget in the future. So that's something I'm going to work on.
It's interesting. It was a much bigger town.
It was much bigger
big,
town. The
vibrant
railroad,
urban
the
center.
railroad, I'm sure. Maybe there were donations. I don't know, but how did it happen then? So
That's great.
let's see how we can use that
Yeah,
to our
very different.
benefit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, and you might find something in the like you can find the archives of the public newspapers, like the Enterprise, on different web archives, like through the MSU library maybe, or
You
yeah.
know, Karen Reinhardt.
Yes, that's
I
what I was
just call
thinking.
Karen.
Put Karen on it.
She may
Okay.
already know.
That's right. Well, thank you, Marshall. This was productive.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We'll see you next month or sooner.
Okay,
Sounds good.
sounds good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good.